Welcome to Celebrating Act Two. Glad to see you again. Thanks for joining us. Art and I are two old guys talking about stuff.
Stuff.
And today the stuff is traveling when you get older. So I just had a recent trip to New York, business and pleasure, mostly business, I think. Um, and it was interesting. At 80 years old, I don't think I'd been on a plane in maybe a couple of years. And certainly New York City was interesting to navigate because you walk everywhere. And but I rented a car. I drove around Lower Connecticut, Westchester, and I have to tell you that 80 years old, it didn't seem too bad. I Art. Now you just recently went to what, a destination wedding in Mexico? Is that right? How was that
Yeah.
travel?
Well, so interestingly, up until about a year ago, I had no problem traveling anywhere. I'm the one who went to Costco and I would lift the flats of water and put them in the car and walk around the house and everything else. And then anybody who's been following some of our machinations, uh, a year ago, May, almost a full year ago, I was in a freak accident and I broke my arm and my leg. And even though I was going to the gym every day, so I was
Yeah.
really in great shape. And then all of a sudden, I was not in great shape. And I just finished 6 months of outpatient therapy, and I'm not fully back yet. So it was a bit of a challenge because we went to a destination wedding in Mexico, about 2 hours outside of Mexico City. It was landlocked, Carretero or someplace. It doesn't matter. It was in Mexico. And uh, the interesting thing is that from a guy like me who was fit and never needed any aids of any kind, we flew down American Airlines down to Dallas Fort Worth and then into Mexico. And quite frankly, I just couldn't get around so quickly. I have a hurricane, which is really great because you can fold it up and take it with you.
Yeah. Great
Okay,
toy.
a great toy, and it worked well. That's hopefully another 6 months from now I won't be needing it anymore. But I had that. But the distance was so long to get from airplane to airplane in Dallas. They have these basically quasi wheelchairs at every exit. So in other words, you get there and all you have to do is get a sky cap or something, have a whole bunch of $5 bills, and they put you in the chair and they just whiz you back and forth. And every so often they'll even have a little cart. And
That's
I
great.
didn't even think twice about have. I thought, well, I'm not an old guy. I got a 25-year rolling plan. I
Yeah.
go to the gym 5 days a week. I'm even now coming back. I'm back to 3 days a week at the gym. But I just needed the assistance, and not in every case. Obviously, at major airports, if you have to go to some of these pole jumper places, it'd probably be very difficult getting in and out of these little, 12-seater planes, the commuter planes, and things like that. But as long as you're going from major airport to major airport, not such a problem. And one other thing I'll add is that uh, there were walking tours after the wedding was over, and it was a wonderful wedding. Great kids. I now have a fifth grandchild, my new grandson by marriage, and so it was really terrific. But we stayed an extra day or two, and we originally were going to go on some walking tours, but the too many cobblestones and things that were, just
Yeah.
too difficult and too much walking, quite frankly. And it was 6,500 feet up in the air, higher than apparently Denver. So there was a bit of a strain all the way around. But the walking tours also had this particular place that we set ours up with, also had the ability to go in these. They say it's a Model T Ford. It basically is an electric cart that looked like a an older car. They put some surroundings around it, and they took us on a riding tour
Oh, that's
to
good.
all the major places we could get out and walk into certain places we wanted to. But basically, they most places can accommodate you if you. And I was not in a wheelchair, but even saw people in wheelchairs being accommodated.
You bring up a good point, and that is for all seniors, no matter what your age, 60s, 70s, 80s. There is, if you're having trouble getting around, you shouldn't be too prideful about it. You should
Absolutely not.
admit it, and make the arrangements ahead of time. In the airports, you're absolutely right. If you call ahead of time, they will get you a wheelchair or they'll get you a cart. You mentioned Denver. I had a layover in Denver, and I was carrying my own bags.
Mm,
Now I'm 80 years old, and I guess I can do it, but it wasn't fun. And I passed by a guy in a cart with nobody in it. I said,
right.
"Hey, you feel like giving an old man a ride that way? 2 miles down the corridor." So I got in, and he delivered me. But I should have arranged for a cart. That's that's what you got to do.
Right, but for most of the major airports, there is something, and you can even do it at the last minute. But American Airlines, which we happen to fly on, absolutely was geared for it at every single exit when you got off the plane. There were
Yeah,
probably five or six wheelchair type things. They were basically easy on, easy off, no arms or anything like that,
yeah,
and a place for them to put your bag, your carry on,
yeah.
to
The
get your
the
laptop.
other the other point you made was walking tours, things like that. A lot of people our age love to travel. I'm not that big a traveler, quite frankly. I have,
Mm,
and when you travel, you just have to make arrangements ahead of time. If you're on a tour,
right.
they can make arrangements for rides instead of walking. There's all kinds of accommodations. So you really, even when you're 60, if you're maybe not quite up to snuff, whether you've had an accident or whether you've got an old injury that makes it hard to walk, you should make arrangements, and don't be afraid to call ahead and book the right kinds of accommodations for
And
yourself.
as John said, don't be embarrassed. I'm an old Marine, okay? And I take care of myself, and I'm the guy who takes care of everybody else. But I needed some assistance, and not even a second thought about it. I was going to a place I wanted to go to be with my granddaughter and my family, and I was going to get there come hell or high water. But it didn't really matter. They are geared for helping. Now I don't know whether going on shipboard may be different, and some of these cruises, those kind of things, and if you have to get around. But generally speaking, you could be accommodated. And if you want to do it, don't use the excuse of, oh, well, I have to have a wheelchair, I have to have some assistance. Don't think twice about it. You want to go, go.
Yep, yep. So enjoy your travel. Don't get stuck at home. If nothing else, walk through the village, walk through the town, and be
For more
active.
on Celebrating Act Two, visit our webpage, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and tell your friends. Celebrating Act Two is the user manual for the second half of your life.